Daniel Jacobs versus Shane Mosley Jr., 10 rounds in the 168-pound division. This is on the undercard of Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal this Saturday. I'll actually be doing a live watch-along for this main event fight on the Bleacher Report app. If you want to join in, I'll be tuned in, going live 9 p.m. Eastern time for that specific fight. If you want to tune in, let me know in the comments and I'll drop the link so you have it. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's start with Daniel Jacobs. 37 wins, 4 losses, 30 wins by way of knockout. Danny G, man, he was a bad man. 37 years old now, and he hasn't fought in 2 years. We last saw him in the ring when he fought John Ryder back in 2022 in February. So, it's been a while for him. And he lost that fight by split decision, which we'll get into shortly here. But the Miracle Man, has had a very good boxing career. He's been in the ring with some greats, some Hall of Famers, some future Hall of Famers, and he's been in there with some just solid, good competition. Caleb Truax, Sergio Mora, he fought a couple times, Peter Quillen, Solecki, Doryachenko, Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., Gabriel Rosario, for most popular names that he's fought that he got wins against. We talked about those losses and future Hall of Famers. His first loss came from when he fought Dimitri Pirog. And if you haven't heard of that cat before, man, go ahead and check that guy out on YouTube, man. He's a very, very good fighter. He also lost to Triple G. He lost to Canelo Alvarez. And of course, most recently, John Ryder. But every loss he suffered, he put forth a great effort and a great showing of himself for the most part. He made Triple G work for that win. Jacob was boxing very well in the early part of the fight. He got knocked down in that third, but got back up and kept fighting. He took some big shots against Triple G, but he dished out some big ones of his own. In the end, he didn't have enough to really slow down Triple G and stop him from coming forward, man. But he did do some good things in that fight. Like, he didn't just get walked over by Triple G. It was a good show. And then when he fought Canelo Alvarez, man, he fought like a really good version of Canelo Alvarez. Canelo, I think at the time, he was 28 years old. He was a little bit more elusive, better defensively, better footwork. And Jacobs just couldn't really hit Canelo enough consistently throughout the fight. Canelo's head movement in that fight was just, it was beautiful, man. He did a really good job of moving his head off of the line. There was a shot in that fight, man, where Danny Jacobs hit Canelo with a beautifully timed left hook and put everything that he had on that shot. And Canelo just rocked his head back and then dialed in and then walked forward. He couldn't outwork Canelo. He did let his hands go later in the fight when Canelo was just sitting on the ropes and allowing him to come in. But, in the end, he just didn't have enough and it just wasn't his night. But he put forth a great effort towards trying to get the win. He would go on to fight Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., beat him. Gabriel Rosario, he was able to beat him. But after the Gabriel Rosario fight, man, he took 2 years off before stepping in the ring to fight John Ryder. So this isn't the first time that he's took this significant amount of time off and came back into the ring. I like John Ryder. I think he's a good, solid opponent. But if the version of Danny Jacobs that fought Canelo or Triple G was apparent on that night, Danny G walks through John Ryder. But that wasn't the version of him on the night. The inactivity played a factor, right? And again, even though he has all of the experience and he's fought Hall of Fame fighters, man, it's hard to fight inactivity because you need ring sharpness. You need to feel the rhythm of everything. And you got to find your groove and get comfortable in the fight. And sparring can do a lot of great things, but it can't necessarily replicate what it's going to be like and feel like in real time. And that was a different version of the former champ. He was a little bit slower, a little bit slower with his reflexes. And even with all that, like I didn't think he fought a terrible fight. He was doing some good work when he was staying on the outside in boxing. And whenever he was staying on the outside, he was having success. But whenever he got sucked into fighting that physical, in close, in the pocket, close range, John Ryder style fight, Ryder was having more of the success. And in the 8th round, Jacobs almost got himself in trouble. You know, it looked like he was slowing down. You know, Ryder seemed like he was finding his groove in the second half of the fight. I think Jacobs got sucked into fighting the fight that, you know, he wasn't supposed to be fighting. He was winning the rounds when he was on the outside and boxing in spots and picking his spots and bringing that calculated pressure when he needed to, but making sure that he wasn't in range where he could be touched up too much. But that wasn't the case in the second part of the fight, man. John Ryder was more physical and used his strength and his volume of punches to be able to outwork the former champion. It was still a close fight, some very close rounds, and a lot of people still think to this day that Daniel Jacobs was the person that was supposed to get the win. And it just makes you think, if John Ryder wasn't at home, would they have given him the nod? Like if it was in America or somewhere else, there's a good chance that maybe it swings over to Jacobs and he might get the win. But it is what it is, and he did not get the win on the night. This isn't the first time that he's taken this amount of time off. He looked a little less than his best, so we'll see what he looks like on the night. Let's talk about his opponent, Shane Mosley Jr., 21 wins, 4 losses, 12 wins by way of knockout. I think Mosley has improved quite a bit over the years. He's a different fighter than his father. Even physically, you know, Mosley is just a natural bigger fighter, height-wise. You know, he isn't as big as a puncher as his father was. I believe Shane Mosley Sr., 49 wins. I think of those 49 wins, it was either 41 or 42 of those wins came by way of knockout, whereas Jr. is more of a boxer than a puncher. However, you know, Mosley Jr. seems like he's been sitting down on his punches a little bit more, especially in his last 2 fights. He's got both of those wins by stoppage, you know, so he's been more aggressive recently and using his physical advantages to his advantage, because I do believe he is a good boxer. When he fought Demetrius Ballard, man, he took a lot of punches in that fight, man. He took a lot of punches that he didn't need to take. And it's because he took so many punches in the 4th round, the man looked pretty tired, you know, but he was still hanging in there, still throwing punches, still coming forward, and was going to the body consistently throughout that fight, and caught Ballard with a shot that pushed him back. And once he had him kind of retreating, he caught him and he dropped him in that round. And he would go on to stop him a little bit later in the round. So, you know, he got hit a bunch that fight, but he's got a pretty good shin. You know, he ate a lot of shots against Ballard, but he didn't get discouraged. He still stood on his feet. I don't think he can take that much punches against Daniel Jacobs, even though Jacobs is older. Jacobs has 30 wins by way of knockout, man. So, you know, he still got pop in his shots, even if he maybe is not his old self 100%. In his most recent fight, he fought Joshua Connolly, and though he did get the stoppage in that fight, man, I thought he fought down to his competition a little bit personally. It seemed like it was one of those stay busy fights, and it seemed like he got caught up in, you know, going through the motions, and it just wasn't a fight that he dominated the fight. He got the stoppage in the fight, but I felt like he could have got the stoppage much quicker in that fight. But, you know, that's just me being picky about it, but he got the win. You know, that's all that really matters. And he had Connolly hurt a bunch of times in that fight. You know, the eye cut, Connolly got an eye cut in the 1st round. I think Shane Mosley, man, I think he's a good boxer. You know, I just felt like sometimes he fights down to his competition. Maybe he's a little uninterested. Maybe it takes him a little bit. He needs a bigger name and a bigger fight to kind of get motivated. But I think he's a good, solid boxer when he's dialed in, locked in, and focused. So this is going to be a very interesting fight, man. I'm curious to see which version of Daniel Jacobs we're going to get and what Shane Mosley Jr.'s game plan is going to be. So who wins? Before I give my pick on this fight, I have something real quick to share. You know, I'm always looking to bring more light, more value, more opportunities for the community. I've been working on a few different things in recent weeks to not just grow the channel, but as I said, to continue to provide as much value as I can to each of you in our community. With that being said, I got some exciting news to share. I'm happy to announce my partnership with BetStamp and signup expert. It's a great opportunity for you to join some of the best sports books to get the best odds and new user offer. All you have to do is head over to my dedicated page at signupexpert.com/thebreakdown to explore a selection of sports books tailored to your region, each with its own unique offerings. So if you want to place a bet this weekend and on this fight and beyond, check out the link to find the best options for you in your region. Every sign up does support the channel, and it helps the channel grow and to expand and to create more opportunities, not just for me, but for our community. You know, I'm always looking out for you guys as best as I can. You can easily find the link in the description below this videos and videos moving forward. So get down there and check it out and find the best option for you. Now, let's get back to the video. I think if Shane Mosley Jr. is going to win this fight and going to beat Daniel Jacobs, now is the perfect time to do it. Jacobs has been inactive. He's a little bit older. He's got some wear and tear on his body. And he didn't look great in his most recent fights. He does have the experience. He's still got pop in his shots, and these are things that will work in his favor. So Jacob might be slower, yes, and he might not be as elusive as he used to be, not have the footwork that he used to have, but he's still going to come in with a great game plan. I think he's going to come with a more strategic approach and pick his spots wisely and maybe let his hands go a little bit more and take risk in the second half of the fight. So I think he might be slightly conservative in the early part, try to fight on the outside. So, you know, I think Mosley Jr. can outwork him and should be able to outwork him. He needs to take advantage of him being the younger man by a couple of years and not being in as many wars as Daniel Jacobs has been in. You look at the resume and you can see Jacobs has fought tougher competition than Mosley Jr. has. He's fought Hall of Famers and future Hall of Famers to be. That is the experience that Jacobs is going to have to lean on. So Mosley Jr. has to be sharp and he's got to be ready. He can't fight at the same level as he did in his last fight, you know, and I also don't like the fact how easily Shane Mosley Jr. gets hit. So I'm expecting a better defensive fight from him, but at the same time, he is going to be there to get hit, which makes it even more interesting because, you know, Daniel Jacobs can still punch. But at the end of the day, man, I think it's going to be a close fight. I think it's going to be some close rounds, but I like Shane Mosley Jr. to get the win by decision. The last time I picked someone who was inactive coming off of a long layoff, I went with the version that I was hoping would show up instead of the reality of inactivity. But the best version of Daniel Jacobs beats the best version of Shane Mosley Jr. in my opinion. But with the inactivity and coming off of a loss, momentum swings to Mosley. Mosley Jr., man, dialed in. A focused version of him. He's just a solid all-around boxer if his mind is there, which I believe that it will be. It's going to be a very good fight. I think there's a lot at stake here. I wouldn't be surprised if Jacobs find a way to get the victory, split decision victory, some type of victory like that. But I think this fight goes the distance, and I think Mosley can outwork Jacobs to steal those close rounds. So those are my thoughts. I would love to hear from you. Who do you have winning this one? How do you think it goes? Let me know in the comment section below. I don't always get to do all the suggested videos you guys suggest in the comment section below, but if you become a member, those suggested videos rise to the top, and I will do my best to get those done for you that week. Or if you'd like to become a member just to show love and to support the channel, man, that would be greatly appreciated as well. Shout out to all the members holding down the membership section, man. I appreciate each of you. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video this long, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.